Pixel Sift is proudly supported by the Murdoch University School of Arts, and they might have what you're looking for in a creative degree. If you're keen to learn more, you can have a look at murdoch.edu.au/arts to find out what they have on offer. That was murdoch.edu.au/arts, or you can just search Murdoch University for more information. Murdoch University School of Arts proudly supporting Pixel Sift.
Pixel Sift.
Hello and welcome to Pixel Sift, the show dedicated to indie games from around Australia and the world. My name's Fiona and we're back again for the first time in 2020. Joining me tonight is my co-host Gianni. How are you going today?
I am going super well. 2020 feels like an extremely sci-fi year,
It does.
So I'm here for it. I'm
excited for just all the round numbers this year.
Yep.
And joining us this week are Michael Wentworth-Bell and Nick Acciarito from Digital Lode in Melbourne. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having us. It's a great honour and glad to be on the first show of the year.
Yeah, thanks very much.
So they're both here to talk about their game Espire 1 VR Operative. But before we get to that, Gianni, what are we also taking a look at?
Yeah, we're going to have a look at the, a crowdfunding campaign, a bit of a social campaign that a number of game developers around the world have gotten on board with. It's called gamedevsforfireys. It's been trending on Twitter. It's an effort to raise money for those Australian bushfires you probably would be hearing about on the news wherever you are. And the hashtag has actually come under fire recently. So there's been a little bit of criticism towards this campaign. So we talk about what the campaign is trying to achieve and some of the controversy that's risen because of it.
All right, let's get into it.
Australia's best video game podcast.
Subscribe to Pixel Sift on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever podcasts are found.
Now, as Australia deals with some of its worst fires in its history, the local game development industry has banded together and they've made a campaign called Game Devs for Fireys. Developers from around the world, but most of them, Australian indies, are auctioning off signed games, some of their original art, or maybe their expertise. And their proceeds are being donated to support Australian firefighters and communities around the country that have been affected by fire. Now, Mariam Dijkavalti, who works in communications for the international body of Game Workers Unite, recently posted a video on her personal YouTube channel and her personal Twitter account. And she's kind of criticized the efforts, saying there was a strong link, in her opinion, between the games industry and a negative impact caused by the games industry on climate change. Let's have a listen to a little bit of what Mariam had to say.
When I see an issue, I'll call it out. And today my eye was caught by the hashtag gamedevsforfireys. So starting today, games professionals will be offering signed games, one-off experiences, services, and more via the hashtag with the hope that people will bid and the funds received will be directed to relief programs for Australian bushfires. The idea was inspired by hashtag authors for fires. What these games devs failed to consider, however, is that unlike the literature industry, the games industry creates a direct and devastating effect on climate change, so our kind donations are just not good enough. If you are in the games industry and actually wish to take a stance against the underlying issues resulting in the fires, droughts, and floods caused by the climatic emergency, I suggest thinking of engaging in direct action for change rather than self-serving Twitter exercises.
So her original video was posted on the 15th of January, which is yesterday as we record this. And we're going to link the full version of that in the show note of this episode. But initially, Nick and Mike, I'm really interested. What are your reactions to comments like that when you see someone come out and sort of criticize a campaign that is hoping to raise money for Australian bushfires?
Yeah, look, I watched the video yesterday when it came out. You guys shared it with me, and I was able to watch that last night. And look, I'm not an expert in climate change. I'm not an expert in environmental studies. There's quite a lot of information in a short period of time in that video that was sort of put out there, and I couldn't confirm or deny or know what's fact and what's not, to be honest. But I suppose by and large, I think the efforts that are trying to be achieved by indies is to just try and help the cause. I mean, as Aussies living here, it's pretty devastating what's been happening in their communities. A lot of homes lost, lives lost. There's lots going on. So I think anything that we can do as smaller studios and indies is a good thing. And so, I don't want to criticize or have an opinion one way or another about climate change or the environmental impacts of the gaming industry. But I think the real issue in front of us is just what's going on and the devastating impact of the fires. So I think anything that we can do is, Mike and I were just saying before offline, we're a small studio. We're pretty new to this industry. So, we're sort of in a position where if we can do something to help support that, whether it be financial services or some other support, we think that that's a good thing, right? Because it's, it's pretty full on what's been going on. So anything we can do to help is important. So, yeah.
And you guys are based in Melbourne. Can you give us a bit of perspective of what it's actually like living through these days of smoke and impact of these fires and trying to get on with your day job of making games in Australia?
I guess, we got it pretty easy. We're about 5K out of the CBD. It sucks because the air quality is not great. You can't see that far. I've got a newborn baby, so we keep her inside all the time. But I mean, we can't really complain. Like I think it's kind of a good thing because for the first time, you're actually seeing the results of the fire season. It like literally every day when it should be super sunny, it's just super overcast. Everyone's coughing. We got fog in the studio. It's like a 10-meter high roof and it's like a haze at the top. And so yeah, that's what it's.
Look, I think it's full on to see the impacts, especially in a city. But yeah, I mean the impact to us. I mean, we get up and come to work every day. We've got it pretty good. There's some there's a lot of firefighters and a lot of people out there impacted, lives and homes, their livelihood, the work. So, it's interesting to see what's been happening, but it's pretty full on and we've got it pretty good, I'd say.
And I think, I guess that's sort of the sentiment is that from a lot of people in the indie game development scene is that, they aren't maybe directly impacted by these fires, but they can sort of feel the effects of them. And they have been kind of making an effort to contribute towards the communities and also the volunteers who've been helping to fight these fires and protect these communities. And, it was sort of launched by Morgan Jaffet, who was Defiant Development based in Brisbane. And they were kind of offering things like, special editions of games like Hand of Fate, which is what Defiant made, and also like a dedicated things. And it's just sort of like this little moment of, of solidarity or help in a way to kind of to do that conversation. I think one of the interesting things about this particular issue is that I think it's very front of mind an issue for Australians, but I think if you're looking at it from an external perspective, you probably don't 100% realize the sort of situation on the ground. And as you said, we're not on the ground. We don't really know exactly what it's like for those people, but we are seeing the images of it. And something like this does make you feel, at least in my own personal perspective, you feel a bit helpless and you want to try and do as much as you personally can to try and help out with people who have lost a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one perspective on it is kind of like any news is good news. And if we've got an opinion that's got a lot of interest now, a video, it's just puts a spotlight on the cause. We wouldn't have known, we didn't actually know that that this kind of effort was actually happening. And so now we can kind of look into it tonight and go, cool, can we be a part of it? So that's good that's come out of it. And I guess it makes us think, cool, game dev, what is our carbon footprint? Like, how can we make it better?
I mean, we spoke internally about trying to, donate just some money basically to the cause, which is something we've been talking to the publisher about, trying to work out with them about how we can sort of go about doing that, for all the right reasons, I suppose. And this is maybe one other way to help. But again, I suppose the fact that we're having the conversations and people are talking about it, then it's probably a good thing that we're at least discussing it and it's getting some coverage. So.
Thanks for watching Pixel Sift. If you're just joining us now, we're talking to Michael Wentworth-Bell and Nick Acciarito about the Game Dev for Fireys hashtag that has been trending lately and also the surrounding controversy. One thing that I find quite interesting and like really happy about that it was started by game devs, but other people are jumping on board too. I've seen some few tweets of people saying, hey, look, I have this special edition signed game with all these badges that I bought a while ago. I'll put it up for auction as well. And I think it's great that it's bringing in us, we might not have a lot of experience in game dev, but it's bringing in the community as well, which I find really, really good.
I agree. And it's not just game dev, I suppose. We've seen just a trend on, social media and a variety of platforms and the news alike with just a lot of local businesses and small businesses around the country that are just, either offering some services if they can, or some support, or some money, whatever they can afford to do, time, etc., to kind of just help out. And it's that sort of community and banding together, which I think is the positive point of all of this, that people are trying to help where they can if they're not actually impacted that greatly. So
I think, like you said, the fact that everyone can get involved makes you feel like, oh, I could actually do something about it. Like, I could donate money to a whole bunch of different things, or I could join this as well and, put something up for auction, no matter who I am, and if it hopefully can help.
Mariam has put out a sort of statement responding to some of the criticism that was received. You can head over to Mariam's Twitter, which we'll link in the show notes of this particular episode. But there's quite a good tweet, I think, which kind of wraps up everything really nicely. Is McCaus Lander, so MCCAUS Lander, says, if we can take anything away from this particular bad take, is that Aussie game devs show super solidarity to each other, and they are really good at coming together at this time of the year. So we'll have a link to that particular one as well. Right now, though, I think we might talk a little bit about Espire 1 VR after this.
Mitch, what's Discord?
Discord is an online chat service that most gamers use. Incidentally, you can also use it to talk to us at pixelsiv.com.au/Discord.
Yeah, you can talk about episodes, you can talk about upcoming topics, you can probably even coerce Mitch into playing a game with you online.
That's not going to happen.
That is going to happen. You're doing it. I'm saying that's happening. Sorry.
Yeah, well...
Join Discord.
You should grow your beard back.
pixelsiv.com.au/Discord.
So we're joined by Michael Wentworth-Bell and Nick Acciarito from Digital Lode in Melbourne, and they're here to talk about their game Espire 1 VR Operative. So for those who may not know, what is Espire 1 VR Operative?
Our elevator pitch that we spent 15 months, trying on to a lot of people is basically Metal Gear Solid 2 meets GoldenEye 007 in VR. So you work for the IFA, Intelligence Force of Australia. You're a drone operator of the future. You use your, VR hardware to remote control the Espire Model 1 robot, deploying it on operations to, infiltrate bases, complete mission objectives, and live out your James Bond fantasies in VR.
That sounds like a really good combination, because Metal Gear Solid 2 is like probably one of the best ones to pick, I think, out of the recent series of games that have come out, especially in that terms of like infiltrating spy sort of in a base sort of field. But I'm curious about sort of controlling a robot. Why did you kind of decide to have like a robotic character as the character that you control?
Well, we kind of one of the biggest reasons we got a publishing contract in the end for a VR title was at our prototype stage, we had a movement system in VR that would minimize VR sickness. So you'd be able to have free movement with a thumbstick style console shooter that you imagine, but you wouldn't want to puke all the time. And the way we did that was by making it a story element. So we said, you're standing in this holodeck room. It's your Espire control theater. Every movement you do, the Espire does 2,000 kilometers away. If you decide to make it do artificial movement, like thumbstick movement, or make it drop off a building, strafe backwards downstairs, Espire's view shrinks down to the size of a floating iPad in front of your head. And in your peripheral vision, you see the control theater room that you're standing in 2,000 kilometers away. And as soon as you stop doing artificial movement, it zooms back in and you have full vision again. And so it tricks the brain into thinking, I'm just watching this happen on a screen. I'm not actually falling 10 meters down to drop on a guard. So I'm not going to want to throw up.
Yeah, and it also, I think the robot concept helps sort of forgive some of the limitations with VR. So, if you pick up a guard's body in VR, you don't really get that same sort of haptic or resistance force feedback on your hand. There's no weight there. It's just the weight of the controllers. But if you're controlling a, 1 ton kilogram humanoid robot, then it could feasibly pick it up, like it's a rag doll and throw it around. And, it's kind of almost an excuse or some forgiveness for the platform limitations.
And some or all headsets have tracking errors where sometimes it loses tracking of your hands. It's just the Espire link. It's gone down a bit, interference.
It sounds like you guys had a lot of fun inventing these little tricks to get around the hardware limitations of VR. Because I know a lot of VR games, you have that sort of teleport jumpy sort of thing, but it sounds like using the the pull-out sort of view was a way to kind of get around some of that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing, and it's something that's probably still being solved a lot in the industry with the different hardware, and people are still trying various things. And these days, especially people that play VR a lot want full freedom of movement. They want locomotion system that just is free move and gives them full flexibility. But I suppose originally and probably as Mike said, the reason that we were able to be successful in getting a publishing deal was that we were trying to create a system, and it's not a perfect system, but we've definitely seen it be successful for some people that would typically get motion sickness, be able to play the game and feel fine. So we certainly wanted to try and appeal to a broader consumer market, because there's enough barrier of entry just getting into VR. So the last thing you want to do is then feel sick having the experience. So we were trying to open it up to as many people as possible.
And also it's a stealth game, an action game too. But if you're sneaking up behind guards and they spot you, it's a bit of a cop out to go, oh yep, boom, I'm going to teleport 5 meters away, and the guards go, oh, where'd you go? So
yeah, that's true.
So what was the biggest challenge that you faced while making this game? Because it sounds like there's a lot of little technical things in there when you were explaining with the motion sickness, what you did for that.
Yeah, it's funny. We did an interview with you guys at PAX, I think it was, and Mike's quoted, and it's written up on our whiteboard, that like the development process was like a fun nightmare. So that's a quote that we got up there, and it kind of it's very true though. It was. I think that the biggest challenge as a studio was the Oculus Quest. So when our game launched, we launched it on a variety of platforms. So it came out on PC VR, PS VR, but also the Oculus Quest. And this mobile device is an Android device, running a system on a chip, all in one sort of headset. So trying to get a game that was built for PC VR, running on a GPU, and trying to get that to run on an Android
Fancy
device.
phone. Yeah,
exactly. Was extremely challenging. So many hours and lots of, I suppose, work in refactoring code and blueprints to get them to run on that device, as well as a lot of optimizations for frame rate and things like that, given the hardware limitations.
And I think the other side of it was from the design. We had to support all the VR headsets. So you've got on our desk, we've all got 5 or 6 different controllers, and it's got to be a fun game. One controller's got like 2 buttons. This one's got like 16 and finger tracking and stuff. And so we have to make mechanics and features that are going to work on both and not annoy people. And that was, I don't think we did the best job at it, but that was definitely one of the toughest things.
Yeah.
Now you said there that we did speak to you back at PAX in October last year. Did you have to change many things from when we last spoke to you to when you released in November?
The honest truth is we were developing the game right up until the day of release, pretty much. So
still are,
and we still are. I think it's interesting because I'm not actually from the games industry previously, but I in coming on board, it's I used to think that the game gets finished and then it gets released and then that's it. But these days it's a lot more fluid than that, and it's a bit of a moving target. So you think you're done, you get it out there, but then you get feedback and people tell you what's wrong with it and other things that you didn't find or you didn't catch. And so we're lucky enough to be in an age where we've got the ability to address those and release patches and updates. So it certainly hasn't stopped. We're still working on the game every day. So.
And the PAX was sweet because we got to see like hundreds of people play it, and the whole team for the first time got to see it. We were lucky, us two. We got to go to E3 and Gamescom and see people play it there, but they'll press and we would convey that to the team. But for the level designer and for the programmers to see people play it and go, oh, this is not easy. It's like cool. Like we all like we got to fix this.
I was there and I saw Sarah playing it, and she was just having the time of her life, just going off on it.
Yeah, Sarah was great. She had a good time, I think.
She talked about it a lot afterwards. She's like, we've got to get Espire 1, get the guys and the team behind that on to have a talk about it. If you're watching us live on Twitch, thank you for watching Pixel Sift. We're talking to Michael Wentworth-Bell and Nick Acciarito about their game Espire 1 VR Operative. Now, I wanted to ask you, the game's been out for a few months, and you mentioned that you've got like a number of different platforms. How does that been received on those different platforms? Can you tell us how what it's like bringing it out from multiple different devices?
It was fun nightmare. Like it was I think part of the publishing process was like, we have to try and make a game that's going to have the best chance of success. So we tried to release it on all VR platforms, and the team size is about 9 people. So I think we executed really well on the Oculus platforms. The game's got 4 stars out of 5 on them, selling quite well. And then on PSVR, it hasn't done very well, just due to the differences in the game that during the porting process it just didn't go, that players aren't happy with. And on Steam, it's done quite poorly, and it's just been an interesting experience for us where it's kind of had a series of negative reviews, and the same game on the Oculus store for PC sells quite well, 4 out of 5. On the Steam store, it's not selling very well at the moment. So that our kind of focus at the moment is we're reading all the Steam reviews and trying our best to turn the game around and get but at the same time not compromise too much on what we wanted.
How does that feel?
I mean, I'm too personally attached to the game, so I don't go on Twitter and see what's trending, but I do go on Twitter and just search Espire 1 and see what people are saying and stuff. And so it feels good to see the game on PSVR go from like a 0.5-star review to now it's 2.5, approaching 3, like it's starting to fill up the stars. And you can see the gamers start to recommend it to friends on that platform. It's like, sweet.
Yeah.
And on it's great because it's kind of like we finally have fans, and so we've got some people that absolutely love it and some people absolutely hate it, and it's the same game, it's different devices, different headsets, and different quality of the game. We're just trying to bring it all up to the same level.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, it's an amazing experience, but it is hard not to get emotionally attached. You know, you read a bad review and then it's like, you know, the whole world's going to end, and it's like it's easy to get into the downward spiral of going down the subreddit black hole, which I keep telling Michael to stop doing, but but it's hard not to, because, you know, you do get attached and you have spent a lot of time, and especially for Mike who sort of started this whole thing, you know, you spend several years of your life just working on something and pushing it there, and to take it from concept all the way through to market and then have somebody not like it is just kind of like, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. So it's but you know, that's part of the process, right? Not everybody's going to love what you're doing, and often the people that are more vocal about it are the ones that, you know, have a problem with it. But the truth is, it's, you know, the reviews that we've got largely have been really positive, and you know, we got Upload VR, and you know, a few other guys had some great reviews of the game when it first came out. So, you know, and that's a really positive feeling that, you know, you've put all this blood, sweat and tears into something, and have people enjoy it and enjoy playing it. And, you know, as Mike said before, going to trade shows and watching public play it and laugh and smile, it's a great feeling.
Especially when Sarah played it, because it was kind of like, wow, because she hadn't played the game before, but I was like, we got to get her to stream it or something, because she just made it look cool.
Yeah.
She was having a lot of fun, like kneeling down and trying to shoot the people up above. It was so much fun watching her have a go at it.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing with VR, is that when people get into it and get fully immersed and make, you know, total use of their movements and their body, and you know, it's not only a great experience, it's great fun to watch as a spectator. So
yeah.
Now, Espire 1 VR Operative has also been put down to be archived by the National Film and Sound Archive, the first time video games have ever been archived. What was it like when you found out that your game was chosen?
Sick.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was really bizarre. We got a sort of a random email out of nowhere from our contacts page, and weren't really sure. You know, I think first we always think everything's a scam, right? We thought, oh, this is a scam, you know, like
the lady that emailed us, we went on her LinkedIn, as you do, and she had like one connection. Like, she set this up yesterday.
Yeah.
She's just going to get our password.
Yeah. Mike thinks everybody's scamming him as well. But look, the thing, yeah, we weren't sure what was going on. And then we got in touch with them and we had a video call, and it was all legitimate. They're, you know, obviously they do film and TV typically, but they were getting into video games, which we thought was awesome in itself. And then when they said they wanted to do a VR game, we thought, well, that's extra awesome. But then when they said they wanted to use ours, we were just like, sorry, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, so they got an interesting challenge, because obviously a lot of things need to update frequently. You can't just take your game cartridge and your old TV and put it aside. Like, there's things where you unplug them from the internet, and all of a sudden, in a certain amount of days, things will stop working if they don't get a connection. So
we actually had a time last year where a lot of hardware and software drivers have digital certificates, and they're signed. And Oculus, they forgot, no bad to Oculus here, but someone at Oculus forgot to renew their digital certificate for the drivers. So every Rift in the world stopped working. And it took them like 20 hours to renew it, but then no one could download the newest update because it wouldn't open the driver. So you had to manually go to a website to get it. And we just saw it from that. I was like, wow. So if you try, they're going to archive Espire for like 70 years. I thought, if you just try and open this game in 6 years, it's probably going to, not so much the game, but the hardware is probably just going to be like, dude, I'm phoning home. No one's answering. Like,
yeah. So it's an interesting challenge they've got, I suppose, to try and archive it in the first place. But we were very honoured. We were wrapped. So
what are you going to archive? Do you know at this stage? Is there like a definitive version of Espire 1, or are you just going to give them everything and let them sort it out?
They actually gave us a contract and said, if we're keen, we can archive the source code, all the original art assets, like pretty much everything. And we're probably pretty keen to do that. We haven't really spoken about it.
Yeah.
But that way it's like a backup. We don't have to worry about backing up the software all day.
It's going to be hard to not resist the longer, because we haven't given them the final version yet. So with every day that goes past, we're like, we'll sneak this in. Can we sneak this in? Can we sneak?
We don't want to give them the 1.0 version, because that's like, no one wants to play that.
Yeah. So it's like, what about this feature? It's like, well, that was, anyway.
Sounds like a fun challenge to have. If you put on your, put your hands on the crystal ball and look into the future of what VR is going to look like, it's come a long way in even a couple of years. What's it going to look like in 5 or 10 years' time?
I think it'll hopefully be less like insular. So at the moment, you put your headset on and you're pretty isolated. There's some sweet VR apps that let you do social VR experiences. I think one of the awesomest uses of VR right now is to be present with a family member or friend who's on the other side of the globe and just chill out. You can see how tall they are. You can have a virtual hug. Sounds lame, but you can even just watch YouTube or something. It's very awesome, and you can just watch, the footy if that's your thing. And I think the future of VR, if it's 4 years or even sooner, will hopefully be more kind of experiences that you can do as groups and have fun. Because I guess the end game is kind of like glasses that are all in one. They're AR glasses. They turn VR if that's what you want, and it'll basically augment the world you're in. So it's
interesting to think, I suppose, I think that's probably the end game, where it's like, a socially acceptable pair of glasses that can also do a lot of other cool stuff. So I think it's probably heading there as hardware gets better. But this, I mean, for us, we see this, the Oculus Quest, like all in one device. You can put this on. There's a whole store full of content that you can just play for hours.
You can walk forever. You can just walk around the block.
Yeah, inside out tracking. And it's just, for us, that was kind of like, in my opinion anyway, the first real consumer VR headset, where the barrier for entry is like, it's $650 for a headset. So it's not cheap, but it's comparable to a console price, and you can just buy it, put it on, take it anywhere and play it. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So to have that now compared to where I think VR was is pretty sweet. And I think already the chip in this is out of date. So once they start, putting some newer tech in there, it's going to be pretty cool.
There's a dark future for VR where it just goes straight to the optic nerve, and you live in a cube and you look through your cube, you've got your virtual friends and family, significant others, and you'd never leave the house. That's
very, very Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, that's good. I can see it happening big time.
You're sorry you asked us now, aren't you?
Now, just as end off, you've spent quite a long time working on this game and other sort of VR and immersive media, but what's the biggest lesson you've learned over this time?
I guess personally, it's don't overpromise and underdeliver in literally every sense of the word. So don't say I'll do that today, or don't try and put your scope really high. It was too much ambition. That's something that we learned, and we could have focused more. I guess that's one thing that we could apply. I could apply to like every part of game dev and life management.
Yeah, I mean, geez, there's so many lessons. I suppose, one of the things, coming from a different industry was that just, everything takes longer than expected in the creative process. And it's just because when is done, sort of done. And so it's very easy for especially external parties, but even ourselves, to want to put timelines on certain things. And it's just, they're not always that easy to deliver because there's not necessarily an end target. It's a challenging thing, creative work. So I suppose time management is probably something that we've learned a lot about over the last 12 months. So as a small studio, so.
Well, it's even more accessible than it's ever been. If you want to check out Espire One VR Operative, you can go to the website, which is espire1.com. Check them out on Twitter, Espire VR, available on Steam and Oculus and everywhere, PlayStation. If you can put it on your face and look into it, that's where it is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Michael and Nick, and telling us all about Espire One VR Operative. It looks so cool, and I really wish that I played it at PAX now.
We'll send you a copy, and if you guys are around Melbourne, come say hi, and we'll look out for you at every trade show there is.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all about what we have time for today. Thank you for watching and listening to episode 138 of Pixel Sift. This episode has been hosted by myself and Gianni. Thank you for joining me tonight, Gianni.
Always a pleasure.
And then Pixel Sift is produced by Scott Quigg, Sarah Ireland, myself, Mitch Lode, Daniel Ang, and Gianni Giovanni is also our executive producer. Now, we wouldn't have been able to make 138 episodes of Pixel Sift if we didn't have the support of Murdoch University. So you can go and check them out and tell them that we sent you. If you're keen to learn out more about a great creative degree, you can head on over to murdoch.edu.au/arts and search through there and see all the amazing things that they have on offer. That was murdoch.edu.au/arts. And then, as always, we'll be sticking links to topics we talked about in the show notes on our website. That's www.pixelsift.com.au.
And you can come join us on Discord. We'd love to have you there. You can get to that by going to pixelsift.com.au/Discord, where you can share your creative work, things you're working on, maybe art or music or whatever. You can talk about topics that we've talked about on the show, play some games with people or anything else. So that's pixelsift.com.au/Discord. And if you like what we do, can I ask you a favor? We need your help to tell a friend. So go and tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, I like Pixel Sift. I think you might like it too. Go and subscribe your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your uncles, anyone on the street. Pixel Sift, get it in their phones. Because getting into podcasts can be tricky, but once you start, we know you're going to love it.
And our next episode will be on the 30th of January. And if you join us this time next week on the 23rd, it will be Pixel Sift Plays, and we'll be playing one of the many indie games that feature on our show. So that's all for this week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.